What if the life you are wanting isn't on the other side of confidence, but it's actually on the other side of a decision you are currently avoiding? Hello, and welcome back to Bitch You Can. Hi, hello, how are ya? It's episode 42. Been on holiday, been living my best life, which was absolutely delightful and definitely felt illegal because I was on holiday without my children and I was with Luke. And me and Luke haven't been on holiday together without children, like an actual holiday, for 8 years. Since our fucking honeymoon. So it's safe to say it was needed, but it really made me think about so many different things. Me and Luke had so many different conversations. We didn't really sit still, if I'm honest. We did like 25,000 steps every day. We basically scaled the coastline of Tenerife every day. But we had a lot of conversations. We got quite deep about things. We were just chatting, and I got into thinking about my life now in comparison to my life this time last year. And it really got me thinking of how much I was avoiding and how much I thought the life I actually wanted was on the other side of this hustle, push, and like this confidence and this idea of what I wanted. But actually, the life I wanted, the life I have now, the life I feel very content with, the slower pace, the not ripping myself a new one every fucking day, come from a decision I was avoiding. I've heard this for years and years and years, and not just from myself, but from women I've coached over the years. So obviously the business coaching I was doing for the last 3 years, and also now within the fitness world, so the fitness coaching and mindset shifts, etc., etc. What I hear all the time is, I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. I'm lost. But are you? But are you actually stuck, lost, don't know what to do? Because usually you've already decided what you're going to do, or what you want to do, or what you need to do, or what you should do. You've already decided that. It's generally that you're avoiding the consequences of admitting that thing. That's generally what it comes down to. And I know that sounds a bit harsh, but today we're coming in with a nice little reality slap. Obviously with love, because I love you so much. But this is the shit that I need somebody to tell me. And sometimes I still need somebody to tell me. So in my opinion, from what I've seen and what also my own experience, so don't forget, I'm not just shitting on everybody. From my own experience as well, but like from what I've seen, is you already know. Not every detail, not every tiny step, but deep down, you know this job isn't serving you. You know that relationship isn't right for you. You know you're toxic to yourself every day. You know you want to live a more healthy, happy lifestyle. You know you need to start. You know you need to rebuild that relationship with yourself. You know you need to leave. You know that friendship dynamic is draining you. You know those family members are toxic. Generally speaking, deep down, you know these things. Like I said, you don't know every tiny detail. You don't know the ins and the outs, the hows, the whys, the whens, the whats. But you know, it's not just I'm lost, I don't know what to do. You're not confused, you're conflicted. And there's a fucking difference between these. And this is where I lived for quite a long time. I could literally give you a fucking hour-long podcast on this shit. But for such a long time, I thought I was confused, but actually I was conflicted. A lot of the time, what we do is we call it confusion, because confusion is safer than the actual truth. Because if you're confused, you don't have to act. You don't have to disappoint anyone. You don't have to risk failure. But whereas if you are honest, well, now you actually got to do something. So what we find is confusion is actually the waiting room, if you like. The fucking where you're sat there. I've got my ticket. I'm next in line. So you're sat there waiting, confused. And a lot of us do this without even realising, right? I'm not shitting on you and be like, oh my God, why are you acting so confused for? I'm confused, I can't, what you're doing. But we're in this confused era. It's, I don't know what to do. Nothing works for me. Why can't I do that? Or I don't know what next step to take. I'm overwhelmed. And what we do subconsciously, because again, we're fearing the truth. You know, we're sat in that waiting room because we just keep taking the numbers because we don't want to go through. We don't want to be called through, absolutely not. Because then we actually have to do something about it. And that's fucking scary. If we tie this into me leaving the aesthetics world behind completely, so obviously I left aesthetics, I was doing business coaching, but I was still within aesthetics world. Now I've left it completely behind. Like, I'm not in that space whatsoever anymore. And it was very, very hard decision. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want you to sit here and think, fuck me, like that was really easy for you. You just went, fuck it, I'm over it. It was really tough, and like mentally it was so, so hard, because it's funny, I was talking to, so I have a coach, right? Physique. So at the minute I am starting anew. Now that I've rewired my brain, obviously I'm helping honeys, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna put myself first as well, because that's something I just never liked to do in the past. So I'm gonna put myself first, and I'm gonna invest in a coach for my physique, because I want to see my full potential, right? And I want to learn from him, because he's very, very knowledgeable with anatomy, and I want to better myself as a coach for my girls as well on all aspects. So I had a call with him, and he was asking me lots of deep questions. If you're part of my broadcast channel, you'll know some of this story already, or some of the first bit. But in a nutshell, he basically, on this call, we were chatting, and he started digging deep into like the ins and the outs of how I've got to this point, and all my past with the binge eating, with the under eating, with my relationship with myself, with my traumas, with all these different layers to it, right? As you all know from listening to this podcast. They basically asked me, like, why is it different this time? Because I said, like, for the first time, I've actually been so consistent over 6 months, which I've never been in, I don't know how long, like, since I first was in the gym and had no other responsibilities, right? And he was like, well, why is that though? So why is it different this time? And I was like, because I quit my business. And then I said, this is the most complex question. I said, because the one thing that built me was the one thing that fucked me up also. And it's so, so wild. And I don't want you to think I'm shitting on the industry, because I'm not. This was a me problem. I'm not blaming the industry. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not blaming anything. This was a me thing. And this is a lesson I had to learn. But aesthetics built me, because I was in a very dark place before aesthetics. So you'll see the reoccurring theme of, I've always had problems, right? I've always had these issues, and obviously, as you know, recently diagnosed with ADHD, not a shock to anybody. I have always struggled mentally because of my traumas, because of limiting beliefs, because of other people's opinions, because of the ADHD, because of being misunderstood, all these fucking things we could reel off forever, as we know. And when I started my aesthetics business, that built my confidence, helped me with anxiety. I learned about my mindset, started diving into the universe, manifestation, beliefs, etc., etc. And I built a lot of resilience. I already had a shit ton of resilience that I didn't even realise, but I started building discipline, resilience, but I channeled it into something else. Again, I didn't think I was worthy of it. I felt my business was the worthy of it. So then it was no boundaries. That actually built me up. And that really got me thinking of like, and this is where me and Luke were talking on holiday. It does all tie back, I promise. It was the most weird, fucked up thing, because I sat and I said, isn't that the most bizarre thing? And he was like, what do you mean? I'm very confused. I said, the one thing that actually built me, it built me up until it couldn't build me no more, and then I realised it was actually very toxic for me, and it actually was fucking me up big time. And it's just so interesting how the one thing that built me was the one thing that fucked me. Isn't that like it? You're probably like, Amy, what the fuck are you talking about? I knew before I even admitted it to myself, but I knew subconsciously, like I kept saying, like, I don't know what to do now. Like, after I activated the event, I obviously was going to have that break. And then I would be like, so Luke's like, so what now? And I was like, I don't know, like, and obviously then we kind of went into activated together, and I thought that made sense. But again, I was hiding behind it. So I thought, I'll just do Luke's social media. I'll do his business. I'll do all the systems, because I know how to do all of that. I'll do all his marketing. I will do like mindset calls, but I'm not actually doing any actual coaching. And I kept coming up with all these different things to do. ADHD probably. But I knew deep down, because I kept saying, oh, I don't know what I need to do. I'm overwhelmed. I'm stuck. I feel lost. But I knew deep down I knew I had to just fucking say goodbye to that side of me. I had to say goodbye and just shut everything down. So the moment I got to where I could shut the businesses down, I took a minute and I just took a breath, and I finally admitted to myself, like, you know what? Yes, I'm so grateful, and it built me up, and I wouldn't change any of it. But fuck me, like, I was so mentally fucked from my own doing, and that is a lesson I've really learned. I guess what I'm saying is my struggle wasn't knowing, like I masked it off, right? My struggle wasn't knowing what I needed to do or knowing how to move forward. My struggle was accepting that that's what it was, and I've spoken about that before, like, accepting like it's time to move on and it wasn't serving me. But I think that when I had that conversation with my coach a couple of weeks ago, and I sat there and said it out loud, like, the one thing that built me was one thing that fucked me. And even that, like, what a hard thing to accept, like, such a hard thing to accept, and such a hard, like, that was the struggle for me, was accepting that and being truthful around that. And that's when I realised, for a lot of us, the hardest decisions aren't the ones that we don't know. They usually are the ones that we know deep down, but we're avoiding. So I guess it comes down to, me and Luke were talking about it on holiday, and I was talking about my old life and my old businesses, and talking about where we are now and the difference in our lives, the difference in my mindset, the difference in my well-being, my health, everything. I guess something we spoke about was like, like Luke would try and talk to me about things, and I was definitely like avoiding conversations with him. So I would be very smart. And again, a lot of this I did subconsciously. And I think sometimes that's the hardest thing, is like, now I'm on the other side, I can tell you and I can pinpoint exactly what I was doing. But in that moment in time, because that's another thing my coach asked me, is like, in the past when I've had like binge or restrictive tendencies, he's like, is it a voice in your head? And I'm like, no, I just do it. It isn't till after I come out of it I can tell you about it. I said, if I'm in it, I'll mask off as something else, but not that I know I'm doing it. Does that make sense? So it's not like there's a voice in my head going like, fuck yourself up, go on and fuck it up, fuck everything up, you little shit. It's like, yes, don't get me wrong, I talk to myself like that sometimes, like in the past. I'm definitely better at that now. But it's like, it's really tough to like put into words, isn't it? I was avoiding certain conversations with Luke. Like, Luke kept saying to me, like, what direction, what we do? I'm like, no, just do it, let's do it. And he's like, Amy, it's not working. Like, it wasn't until he sat me down. We actually had a different person point out in the business. He's like, what actually is your business? And I was like, what? And Luke was like, what is our business? I was like, this is what I've been avoiding. This is what I've been avoiding. What do you mean? Shut up. And then I sat back and I was voice noting my best friend, and I was like, I've come to the realisation that I've been so avoidant, and I've been really hiding behind my fears of coaching, and my fears of, basically my fear is I don't want to go back to how I was or who I was, because not that I was an asshole or anything, because I wasn't, apart from to myself, but I was so consumed by the business and everyone else that I was literally drowning. Like, I was like here, like help, in that bit of the Titanic when they're literally like underneath the stairwell, and they're like, that was, and like Leonardo's like, he's fucking chained, he's on the fucking handcuff. That's literally me. But instead of like Titanic where the water's coming in and they can't help it, I'm also, this is the arm that's chained and this is a big bowl of water. I'm like, oh yeah, let's keep pouring it on me. Like, that was me. It's awkward, isn't it? What truths I was avoiding, and what truth I kept negotiating and kept trying to put to the back burner. I bet you right now you have one. You have something you're sat on. It could be work, it could be business, it could be relationships, could be dynamics, could be family, could be your own relationship with yourself, your own health, it could be your own physical appearance, mental being, it could be absolutely anything. But there'll be something you have right now, because I think we all have something. And that was mine up until very recently. Just avoiding that altogether. So just sit with that for a minute. Like, what are you avoiding right now? And that segues us into our Healing Girl homework very, very beautifully. This is one of my favourite questions that I always would ask my hands when I was doing business coaching. So if fear wasn't involved, if there was no such thing as fear wasn't involved, and also let's take some other directives of you wasn't going to hurt anybody, money was no object, literally like it's a free pass. You have a golden ticket, or you got that genie, and you've got a free fucking pass, and no fear exists. What would you actually do next? Like, what would you actually do next with whatever element of your life that it is that you're thinking about right now? Or even do a fun little game and write down, like, work, relationship, family, friendship, hobby, I don't know. Write down each fucking section. And even write with all of those. If you're like, oh, I don't really know. Maybe you're someone right now who's like, I don't know what to do next, but this bitch has been nattering on for 20 minutes and I don't really know. Like, I don't know what I'm avoiding. I'm not avoiding anything. Split it all into sections and then you'll find something that in there. So if you had that genie and there was a free pass and fear wasn't a thing, what would you actually do next? What would you actually do? I don't want you to justify it. I don't want you to explain it. I just want you to write it down. Just write that down and see what comes up for you. Maybe you aren't stuck. Maybe you've just reached a point where your soul, your subconscious, however you want to look at it, knows something that your comfort zone doesn't want to accept yet. Because trust me, the longer you ignore it, the louder it's going to get, and it will present in other ways. And this will aid to your overwhelm, this will aid to your frustration, this will aid to you not looking after yourself, this will aid to your empty cup. So the longer you ignore it, the louder that bitch is going to get, and half the time you don't even realise it's the thing. Like, your body and soul and your mind is screaming out, but you keep loading other things on because you think that's what's going to fix it. But actually, it's probably just this one thing that your subconscious knows, but it hasn't transpired through yet. And just remember, you don't need that fucking genie, darling. You don't need that free pass, and fear is what you make of it. So if you want, you can decide that fear just does not exist. And I shall tell you for why. Because, bitch, you can. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that's given you something to be like, what? It's funny, I get messages, like, especially now, back up and running on Bitch You Can, and I get messages of people like, how are you in my brain? Or like, well, you just sent me on a 360 or a 180. I don't ever always get them confused. And I just find it so interesting because I'm just up here in my loft and I just talk whatever fucking comes off the chest. And I just talk real. Like, there's nothing to hide up here. I'm literally talking to myself. Obviously, then I edit it and sometimes I'm like, ooh, can I say that? Should I say that? And I think, fuck it, yeah. But it's always so refreshing and so lovely and makes me realise, like, I am on the right path here to, like, sharing this. And I should still share this stuff because how many of you message me and say, fuck me, like, I have never felt so heard and seen in my whole life. And, like, you've literally said what's going on in my brain that I'm too scared to say out loud. And that's exactly what I want for this space. So thank you so much. As always, I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. Please share this with anyone in your life who you think, even any of the other episodes, whatever, that you think could deal with some Bitch You Can energy in their lives. I love to hear what you gals get from your Healing Girl homework. I love to know what you're up to and how this podcast has helped you. So please don't ever be a stranger. I love chatting to you. I love, like, hearing feedback, because otherwise I'll be sat here going, I'm just sat here in my loft. Is anyone going to listen? So please, I love to hear it. Anyway, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Love you, bye.